biggest, as of today, is the biggest party in Eastern Central Africa, ODM. I'm the Deputy Secretary General. Because some women stood firm, like Esther, and said, no one is taking out Catherine Omanyo's name there. Because it has been mentioned, and it has been listed, and she is the only woman on there, she will. Not because she is my best friend, no. There was an opportunity for a woman. So if we have very few women who can lobby for others, then we go at a loss. But if we have women with the presence of the mind, everywhere they go, women will be represented whether people are alert or not. The only difference here is some people reach places of authority and go in comfort zones and forget and get their salaries, count their few remaining years, get out of the office without leaving a legacy. Positioning with the party leaders, because if we don't keep reminding our party leaders that we still are running short, we don't have enough women, we don't have enough youths, we don't have enough people living with disability. Reminding them, as a member of parliament, I wake up by 6, I have 80-something missed calls. By 6 in the evening or 10 p.m., time was 7 sub-counties. Somebody in a village somewhere is thinking of flashing my number. So how many will I actually call back out of 400 missed calls? So reminding these party leaders is very crucial, because there are so many other slots that come by, or maybe by elections or something. What if we just say no? Like our party leader, Honorable Raila Odinga, said this county, a woman will go for it. And he lobbied and rallied behind the doctrine division. Continuously keep lobbying for the women who have shown even just a small interest in occupying political seats. Training. I went all the way to University of Nairobi, but the problems I had in my mind, I sometimes feel I'm empty. If you ask me many questions that go with the university levels, I can look at you so blankly. So never assume that because we have a doctor here, an engineer here, a teacher here, they are knowledgeable of what is happening. Politics changes every now and then like a chameleon. So continuous training and reminding us how to also see how to be tricky, strategic, and everything is very important. Don't train us once a year and write a lot of theory that you trained with. Let us keep on being reminded that this is happening. What are you thinking? Push us. Sometimes I'm called in 3 different channels to go and be interviewed, discuss about current affairs. But what I went through, my children are crying, my husband is also disturbing everybody around me. I didn't read the newspaper. So sometimes just text some of us and say this is happening. I will go and dig deeper to know what is happening. So when I go to that channel, I look like a very knowledgeable person, but it was only the 2 minutes I had to dig in. So continuously keep reminding us, training us, send us those notes.
Thank you.
Go through them. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Give the women a round of applause, please. I want to give Ann and Stella a chance to also answer that question from your perspective. It doesn't necessarily have to be 2/3 rule, as Catherine has eloquently said, and also Esther. It really should be 50-50. So Ann, maybe you can tell us in your space, what are you doing or what needs to be done to see more women seated at the main decision-making tables? And then we'll move to Stella. And then I think I might open it up to the audience, because some of our guests have to leave fairly soon. So I want to make sure that the audience has a chance to ask some questions.
Thank you. I think from where I sit, the starting point is the political party. Especially when we talk about political participation. If, and somebody has alluded that, if the young women, the women and the youth and the person with disability do not engage with the political party, then they start losing light from there. So the first thing is to mobilize the young able to join political parties, and we currently have about 90 political parties. You cannot lack one of those that to appeal to you and you'll be able to engage. And noting that politics is local, then you are engaging with political parties that you know they have a major presence from where the regions will come from. And you have options. That's why Kenya is a one-party democracy. We also have to look at policy, and that's what, as an institution, we have been looking at the Political Parties Act, so that it's responsive to the inclusion aspect. For example, when we did the review for Political Parties Act 2022, we looked at how the Political Parties Fund can be used significantly to support women and youth and persons with disabilities, so that 15% of political parties fund is allocated to a political party based on the number of youth, the women, the person with disability a party bring on board after elections. So that is very important, the policy part of it. We also look at the management of the political party. In the governing body, as my sister here is mentioning, are there women within the governing body? Are women represented? Are youth represented? Are the person with disability represented? So that the law, as it is now, requires the governing body of a political party to have at least 1/3 of them being women, and at least a person with disability, and at least some 2 or 3 youth within the governing body, depending on how large the governing body is. So I think, to me, one of the issues that we must focus on is that youth being mobilized to join political parties. And it's empirical, there's empirical data. In the last general election, out of the 16,100 candidates, 11,800 and something came from political parties. The rest came from as independent candidates, but you can see very clearly, nearly 98-point-something% of all elected leaders come from political parties. That's why I'm saying political party is the place to focus. You can see, even if the independent candidates come in large numbers, the political party's candidate will, because they are a team and they are mobilizing towards a particular aspect. That is one. The second one, I think it's a transformational behavior change program, because as it has correctly been said, we have a patriarchal society, and we cannot run away from that fact unless there's behavior change and mind transformation of how Kenyan view women leadership, or youth leadership, or person with disability leadership. We still have a long way to go. So we need to have programs that are geared towards to change the mind. And I usually give an example. When HIV came, and people were confused, and we were being told many things. What this country, Kenya, did, we actually went to a program on behavior change. And remember the ABC? We sang that song until people understood what is HIV and what you can do, and what else you can do. I think that such kind of an aggressive program is what is needed to change them, to shift the mind about leadership in this country, so that people can start seeing perspectives that women are leaders, young people are leaders, persons with disability are leaders, young women also are leaders, young men are leaders. Unless we do that and present models and example of modeling, we do role modeling, then I think that will shift the mind. And then I also want to say the third thing as I finish is that we should not only focus on the issue of politics and political participation. We also need to focus on policy. How many women are there in high level making policy, even in government? Are we insisting, when we are promised that we shall have a third of the cabinet being women, and then it is not given? How are we taking that as a fraternity who are working in that sector? When we are promised that senior civil servant, the ones, even look at, and I want somebody to want it, probably from NIMD. How many women are there above job in public service? They are very few. Indeed, the last time I checked, the last audit by Public Service Commission, like 5-6 years ago, there were less than 11%. to about 11%. So you can imagine if that top level policy making, there are fewer women, then what does it mean for policy making within government and within even other institutions that are affecting how policy and implementation of the same? Because it's one thing for these very nice members of parliament to make laws, and then the implementation is done by all men, so they may misunderstood what she meant when she wanted to help her mother or that other person. So it's good, it's a wholesale process, and you look at it from every perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Give her a round of applause. Stella, you're next. You can tell us what's happening in your space, what you think we should be doing to achieve the 2/3 to 50-50, that's it.
Thank you. I first want to commend these women for being brave. I think it takes a good level of boldness and leadership and the courage to step in and move and push through these men. It's not easy, so please let's appreciate these women. I first went for a political seat when I was at the University of Nairobi. It was tough. It was tough. From navigating booths at the University of Nairobi to fundraising, to have posters, and then you have to take a professional photo and then not making it. So to hear you say that you ran for the first time, please make it, yeah, so well done, ladies. So for us at Human Leaders Foundation and even other youth serving organizations in Kenya, we think and we are convinced that it takes intentionality to close the gap. 10% women political leaders make up 10% of the parliamentarians in elected seats today. And for young women, it's 6% of all the parliamentarians, so women reps, Senate, and MP, the National Assembly. Yeah? So how do we close that gap? Yeah? And I like what Ann just said, that let's just not look at political leaders. And we love our women politicians, we want more. But then there's a whole political ecosystem. Yeah? We need more women chief of staffs. We need more women campaigners. We need more women financing women candidates. Yeah? We need more women in financial institutions to understand what it is when it comes to access to capital. We need more women in media telling women stories. Yeah? We need more women talking about the challenges that women politicians face when you look at cyberbullying. And even the story is told that a man in media can be asked, so tell us how you finance your campaign, tell us how it was the journey. But a woman will be told, so how do you balance? Are you married? So all these gender stereotypes have to stop. And that's why we need to place more women. So the actors in the room, we need more women in leadership. We need to finance more women through education, for instance. More women in business, more women in different institutions that serve all of us. So that we are increasing visibility, but we are also strategically placing women in all these positions. So at United Leaders Foundation, we do that. We work with young people. We want young women especially to understand that branding is so important. Mentorship is so important. Taking part in governance processes is very, very important. And there are different forms of political participation. It's not just voting or running for a political seat. You need to understand the different roles and the different structures of the coalition, for instance, or government. And so when you operate from a point of intentionality and placing strategically all these young women who want to run, then we begin to close that gap. Number two, as a gender trainer myself, so for a long time, gender leadership, gender inclusion was mostly about let's increase the number of women, let's train women. But men also have a role to play in women taking up leadership positions. If we have 9 political parties in Kenya, how many are led by men and how many are led by women? Yeah? And how many people make up NEC in all political parties? It's mostly men making decisions for women. Same to religious institutions, same to learning institutions. So as long as we do not have women in decision-making processes and positions, then we are not making the progress that we need to make. And finally, the challenges that women face, yeah? We just came from talking about femicide, but there's also many other challenges. Teen pregnancies continue to be a great barrier for women taking up leadership positions. Lack of education. A lot of them drop out and not go back to school, yeah? So if they do not then participate in all these opportunities, then they cannot have the confidence or even the knowledge to take up leadership positions. I look at the minority groups in the country. And I like to say minoritized because I don't like minority, the word minority, yeah? Persons with disability, and even caregivers of these persons with disability. That it matters how we engage them. We're not just talking about let's include them in development processes, but are we ready to finance these groups? So in planning, and I know that we have so many actors here, are we funding these groups that will give money and funds to different organizations to do different interventions at the grassroots level? Are we asking the serious questions about inclusion of all these groups? And finally, we have, I think, about 6 counties that do not have any woman elected apart from women representatives. I think that's where now focus is. And so, as the Materials Foundation, we are asking ourselves, how do we get there? And we don't necessarily have to be the ones directly implementing. We want to work with local community-based organizations there, mostly led by young people and young women. And I think the more we are intentional, the more we place these very special interest groups at the center of development processes, then I think the more we can achieve what we want to achieve and close the gap.
Thank you. Ladies, you've given us a lot of things to chew on today, and I want to thank you for that. Out of all the myriad of suggestions that you made, for me personally, I think behavior change and mindset change really are at the foundation. Because if we don't change the way we think about women in leadership, women in political positions, women in civic arena, then we won't change anything. So on that note, I want to, because some of our ladies will have to leave soon, I want to open the floor to anybody in the audience who might have a question. I see one hand up already. 2 or 3, wow, there are a lot of hands, so maybe you can share the microphone. The gentleman in the blue, yeah, he's the guy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists, for this wonderful conversation. Thank you very much, Ann Nderitu, particular speaker. So my question is, it's actually not a question, it's a comment. I'm just wondering if, going back to the narco conversation, and I'm just wondering whether it's time for you as leaders, as women leaders, to start pronouncing yourself much firmly on the different positions that are there on the narco proposals, on the gender, because I know it's either we top up seats, either we do away with some positions, or it's either we do one man, one woman. So I think it's time now to try and remedy the issues that are there by pronouncing ourselves on the different choices that we have there. My name is Edward Kakuku, I work for Zanema.
Thank you, Edward. Anybody else? Yes, so ladies.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Samson Bonaya Boru. I sit at the alumni chapter of University Street Leaders at Universities and Colleges Students' Peace Association of Kenya. And I'm also the founder and director of a community-based organization in Isiolo. It's called the Northern Vision. And we work towards empowering indigenous women towards getting their full potential on matters education and community engagements. First and foremost, I'd like to appreciate all the remarkable women here, and particularly also there, because sitting in positions that you sit, the mirror effect that it has on us young women leaders it's possible. And yeah, so I'd like to extend my gratitude to Madam Ann Nderitu for the great work that you have been doing with ORPP, particularly during the International Day of Democracy, extending the activities of ORPP into the university spaces. So this is more of a question, this is more of a comment, just to let you know that in in the university spaces, this is where we have also upcoming women leaders who need mentorship. And it is important also that when we are discussing the, women in leadership, it is also important to also consider them sitting in those spaces, because for even for them to be able to get these positions, they get to deal with, the stereotype of, you're vying for presidency. In these universities, we have not gotten there yet to have a woman to be in this position. And Kenya is a young nation, and these young women leaders are the future women like you who are seated there. And just that. And also I'd like to pose this question to Madam Ann Nderitu, if you are open to having more of those engagements in the university spaces, so that they get to know, aside from the leadership that you've been able to attain in university, it is possible for you to also go and vie for these positions, and it's also possible for you to get those positions and for you to be able to make a mark.
Thank you for your comments and your question. Anne, could you answer that question very quickly? Because we might have to wrap up. Let me take two more questions, not comments, and if you could make them very quick, very brief questions, because our panelists have to go in the next few minutes. Okay?
Good evening, ladies and
gentlemen.
Good evening. Hamjambo. You guys are not happy. Hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. The reason I'm very happy is because I think we are already on the right track. What we are doing is what I think is supposed to be done. If we had such programs in all of our constituencies now, you can imagine how many ladies and how many women would have the zeal and zest to push through life. I have a question towards the end, but I'm standing here as a witness to what empowering a woman can do to the society. When I happened to grow up in a privileged
sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
But these women are pushing me to try to wrap up the session because they have another event to go to. So please ask your question. Yes. Thank you.
So I think women empowerment starts with the people who are in power, you who are already there, not failing us. And I'm happy you're not failing us because of such programs. And two, the young ones, because as Swahili man says, samaki mkunje angali mbichi. So what are we doing to empower these young children from these early ages, primary school, baby class, giving them the zeal and the energy to push through life and keep making them believe that they are not inferior in the society? I think that's a good challenge that we should explore and see how we can empower these women. Because from there, it becomes a marathon.
That's a very good point. Civic education, maybe even right from primary school. Thank you very much. One of you ladies will answer that question. The last one. Okay, we'll take the lady who's standing and then the lady in red. Unfortunately, I can't go past that. Go ahead. Question, please.
My name is Shampiana.
Yes.
I am from the Borana people of Kenya, proud indigenous daughter. And my question is on this basis that I did a research. I'm also part of the alumni chapter of Universities and Colleges Students Peace Association of Kenya. So in 2022, we did a research to look at which age group in the women is the most disengaged when it comes to politics and politics engagement. And we established that girls between the ages 18 to 24 are the most disengaged when it comes to the topic of politics. And this is because, it's not because they hate politics or anything, it's just that the interest is not there, or rather the interest has not been sparked. So when we are involving them in activities, they seem to be interested in other things. But ultimately politics is affected by, politics affects everything. So in my attempt to involve the girls they're not interested in politics, but they're interested in beauty. So we would call them and we would take them through beauty glam sessions, and in those glam sessions we take them through the topic of politics, and all of a sudden they realize, oh my god, even the price of the beauty products we like is affected by politics. So my question is, do you think that maybe sometimes part of the reason why this topic of politics is not very appealing to young girls is because that the reason why it's not very appealing to young girls is because it has not been brought to their attention how much of the things they like is affected by politics? Or rather, do you think the traditional methods that I've been using are not really the best to cope up with the Gen Z girls? Is basically what my question is. Thank you.
Thank you. The lady in red. Then we'll open the floor, whoever wants to answer those questions.
Okay, good evening everyone. I'm Ann Nderitu from Kenya Women Parliamentary Association. So I'll pose my question to Madam Stella because I heard her mention about the grassroots. My question is, how can the civil society organization and the grassroots contribute to the implementation on the truth and gender rules? How can it be enforced by the civil society and the grassroots? That's my question.
Thank you very much.
So ladies, I think what we can do is, as you give your closing remarks, if you could address one or two of the questions that were posed.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the participant, and I know we have a very big audience here because I can see them. Just straight to the question the USPAC readers asked. Yeah, we continue to take universities as one of our harvesting ground in terms of participation of women in the politics and also youth in general. So we shall continue with the partnership every other time. And I can see them do, we have to, with one of these sessions, we should take them, we should take it there. As part of my closing, I think let's all work together towards the realization of inclusion at all levels, because it's very important that inclusion is also done at every level, education sector, public administration, where elections and everywhere, so that implementation affects every person. Thank you.
Thank you. The lady from, is it Borana? The best person for you to position yourself now is Honorable Naomi Wako. She's going for a gubernatorial seat. So, Kapsa Bampa. 1. 2. The living witness. I know you have a story behind whatever, because of time. Be a witness by also pushing more ladies. Even your girlfriend, the way you treat her, the way you handle other women around you, should continuously be a witness. Because that way you protect, but at the same time, you give them space to be themselves. So every other man who has come here, how many more women are you treating nice? And just making sure that if they want to be what they want to be, if you're part of a solution, what are you doing? So it has to start from there. Me, I didn't know how I started, but I started anyway. I have a long story. One day, I'm asking them to call me back so we can talk and go deep. Maybe one person or two will say, hey, kumbe hakuna kitu inawezekani in this world. God bless you.
Thank you. I will try to answer the 18 to 24-year-olds why they're disengaged, the ladies. I think it's because they're not seeing people who are like them in leadership. They're seeing old men in leadership mostly, and then below that are elderly, maybe ladies, and so there's a disconnect in terms of relation, how to relate to leaders who are not in their age group, don't have the same interests, are not speaking the same language, as has been said. But I also think that they have a responsibility to also start getting engaged. Just like you have said you did through the beauty lab, I think that's a really great initiative, to try and find the juncture between what is of interest to them and then fusing that with politics. I think that's where the sweet spot lays. Same thing with the disability community. They're also disillusioned. They're like, this country doesn't work for us, so why should we care? But now that I'm beginning to start talking to them more and they're seeing me in these places, they're like, oh, we should be caring because we have somebody like that, one of our own in there, and she's doing a good job on our behalf. So I think that it's both of our responsibility, the young ladies as well as us leaders, to try and meet in the middle and also use social media a little bit more. I think we need to use social more. I'll leave you with my closing remarks. There is a case study, and this is specifically for Madam Ann. I met a delegation from Canada, and in Canada, their political parties, what they do is, they say that if in this electoral cycle, we are putting forward and giving a ticket to a man in a particular constituency, if he does not come back, or if he retires by the next electoral cycle, the next person that will be given a ticket has to be a woman. That's how they're doing it, and that's how they're achieving gender parity. Because the political parties, in their policies and in the Political Parties Act in Canada, they have made it mandatory. It's no longer please do it, think about it, consider, this is a recommendation. It's like, no. If in 2022, Nairobi County had a male senator, that means the next ticket that will be given to 2027, if he doesn't re-elect, if he's not re-elected, if he doesn't retire, it has to be over 2027. So we need to get to that place, and I hope that, and I'm sure that we are moving towards that.
Thank you. Eric, you're amazing. You're such a he for she, because when you were speaking, you didn't say you should do this, you should do that. You said we. Alright? So you became a woman for a split second, and you became part of us and part of our agenda. That's what we need. We need men to own that space. And I'll tell you, when the bill for two-thirds gender came to the floor of the House, can you imagine they brought it when most of the women had gone for a women's conference, CSW, they table it when we are away, and then the media says women cannot even be there for themselves. So even the men are playing dirty politics, but we believe that the president has sincerity in that he wants, whichever way we do it, we achieve the not more than two-thirds gender. The top-up, as Crystal said, it's not going to cost a lot of money. We are not a burden, we are not an expense, we are an asset, and we belong in that house 50-50. They've given us no more than two-thirds, give us our one-third. Can you imagine? It's the only part of the Constitution that hasn't been implemented. Now, you know what? I'm so proud of this panel. Can you see? We're not sitting back. We're not saying give it to us. We're doing our part. We've got a moderator, woman. We've got 5 panelists, all women. So I think we continue doing that. And then for the one who talked about starting from children, we've got to start from the child before we can empower the woman. All right. So right across, girl child empowerment, and I think the boy child keeps complaining every time they hear something about the girl child. But you know what? All the children, as a mother, all the children are empowered. But what we're saying is we still have a long way to go, to lift up the girl child. You talked about teenage pregnancies. Look at the impact of that. 300,000 children during the pandemic ended up pregnant because they were defiled. So the girl child still needs protection, and we need he for she. And the study you talked about, I think every study has to be shared with us. Let us know what the people are saying. I love what you said, that we need to somehow appeal to that young generation that are more interested in their makeup and their looks and their good, their girly stuff. So we have to make politics a bit more cut. We've got to cut the dress according to the wearer. So we've got to make sure that every sector of society sees the woman as an asset to have in Parliament. And I think we're getting there. It's slow, but I celebrate the fact that we've had Charity Bean running for president. I celebrate the fact that we've had Martha Dubra running for president. I celebrate the fact that we have a Chief Justice who's a woman, and we have a captain. Every time I land the flight to New York and I hear the captain's name and it's a woman, I am so proud of her. So we've got a lot of landmarks. So for me, I think we need more he for she. So Eric, thanks. Today you just walk around and say, you said we, so I love that. Thank you.
And I think how can civil society organizations participate in the implementation of the two-parts gender role? I think they've been doing that for so long, but then it cuts, of course. There's civil where they are, yeah? And I think everybody here, most of them are young people. Let's be interested in politics. Sometimes it's not very easy, but let's develop that interest and let's push our agenda as well as young people.
Thank you very much. Wow. Another round of applause, please. They have been wonderful. Before we ask, I'd like to ask the last question before we dismiss or before we start to mingle. How many now are more interested than at the beginning of the conversation to enter the political space? With a show of hands. How many? How many more? Okay, I think a few hands went down. Did we get more or less? We got more? Oh, great. More women. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. It has been a privilege of mine to moderate this conversation today. I believe we've all enjoyed it. If the ladies, whoever is able to stay, we're able to mingle with them and ask other questions. But otherwise, I think I hand it back to Jillian. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our panelists for a really great conversation. I know we were focusing on women, and the art in the room is also focusing on women. But I hope the men felt safe in the room. Yes, so as our panelists like I previously mentioned, this event is sponsored by the European Union through the CIPA project. So I just wanted to recognize the presence of our CIPA partners. If you can stand, we have Zalena, just wait. And the Oslo Center, Isaac, CMD are also represented here. Okay. And also just a brief introduction and maybe remarks from our representation from the EU delegation.
Thank you for putting me on the spot. I was really expecting to say something. I thought my working day was over some hours ago, but anyway, it's not, and I'm happy to be here and also meet you all, and thank you so much for engaging and coming to this conversation. I really like the tone of this engagement, the commitment of the Kenyan women in leadership roles with you, and also sharing their experiences and what they believe is important. From my personal perspective, I'm Danish. I'm from a country where it's very close from being a citizen to parliamentarians and politicians. We have a very good representation of women in our parliament, but it was not always like this. I really believe in bringing politicians to talk about issues close to where young people and voters are, and you setting the agenda as youth or citizens for what shape the political conversation should have. I mean, if you think that young women are more interested in beauty products and imaging, maybe we should also talk more about what are the policies in that area. It's about regulating products, it's about consumer protection, it's about having access to complain if there are issues that are unhealthy or could bring harm. But maybe also a little bit about from what age should young people start wearing makeup, and why is it we want to wear makeup, why is it we want to look a certain way, and why is it we want to present ourselves in a certain way, particularly for young girls and women. You know, do they want to sexualize themselves from a very early age, and why is that? Is that because of mass media? Is it because of expectations? Does that make them more at risk of rape and defilement, or does it offer them protection and security and a better prospect in life? I think that should be part of the conversation. So I have not really understood ever why women cannot vote for women. This is still a puzzle for me. I mean, you need so many empowered women in communities that have a voice, that speak out when we need them. But everything we hear and read in reports is that Kenyan women do not vote Kenyan women. And this, I think, will really change. But how we can change this, I don't know. This is you who have the questions. You who are in the universities, among the youth and the youth organizations who have contact to the Manawashis, the people on the ground, who will be able to give the answers to this. And I think this is a big key to changing this. I'm not necessarily personally a fan of solving the gender representation by adding seats. I really agree with Ann Nderitu from the ORPP that women should be elected and women should be competing and they should be given that space, and youth and people with disabilities also, they should be given the speech by their leaders because they know this will change the nature of political parties, it will change the nature of politics, it will bring better solutions to Kenyan economy development, because you will have affected people being part of policy dialogue and making policies that respond to people's needs and will make politics closer to citizens. But these are my personal opinions. I do not speak on behalf of the European Union in this regard. The other thing I would like to say is that in Europe there's a very strong engagement with young people already from they are 13, 15 on these matters. I mean, we do not consider youth from 18 to 35 or 40. And I think also this is maybe some of the young people that are 15, 16 now will be voting in the next elections for the first time. And as the youth population is very big, this is a very important part of the population. So I think also there's a need to maybe broaden out the conversation a little bit more, and I'm sure a lot of you are already doing this. The last point I wanted to say, I would also wish that there's a little bit more engagement with the youth that attend the vocational training institutes, because you don't need a university degree to be elected to parliament. I mean, you need representatives that represent who people are in the country. So I would also hope that the vocational training institutes would be more of a fertile ground for engagement with youth, and maybe also even youth who cannot attend further education because of lack of need or interest or opportunities in life, so that you in your own engagement with young people, with young girls, with people with disabilities, you do not focus only on them with the most privileged in the country, which are the ones that attend university. But these are some choices that you will have to do, and how you strategize and how you think you will have the best impact. But politics are not reserved for people who have a university education. They are reserved for citizens in the country. I think I will leave it at this, and I wish you all the best in your future political career. And if you do not choose to pursue a political career, there are many other spaces in Kenya where you can help promote gender equality. In your workspace, in the private sector, in many studies show that women who get a job, who get some sort of income, will later on enter politics also, or will become important influencers in the community. So there are many rooms to change and shape Kenya, even if you decide that entering politics is maybe not you. I did not put up my hand because as a Dane I'm way too old to enter politics in Denmark. If you do not enter politics when you're between 16 and 18, you do not have a chance. You have to be active in the youth wings of political parties, and they are taken very seriously by the leadership of political parties. So I have lost my chance to become active in politics in the country where I live. Thank you very much.